Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to my show. I'm Royce Morales. I'm the founder and teacher of Perfect Life Awakening, which is a series of spiritually based classes and private inner inquiry work that can shift your life by discovering the roots or the origins of your self-sabotage. It's very powerful work. And I love my tagline. I always like to say this: Perfect Life Awakening helps you transform from triggered to empowered, all done with spiritual intention. I've also written 3 books that detail my teachings and various aspects of it, and they're all available on Amazon. And I have a weekly blog and YouTube and all kinds of stuff. So today I am chatting with an amazing person, Sophia Demas in Spanish, I guess. And she's the author of a spiritual memoir about the power of miracles. And she's going to get into understanding what miracles really are, what they're about. You've probably had some in your life and maybe didn't even realize it. I know when I started my spiritual journey, I had all these bizarre things start happening to me. And, at first I thought, okay, am I making this up? But they always ended up being these miracles, these coincidences that were leading me somewhere. And, it just took the ability to stop and notice them. And I'm sure that Sophia is going to talk about that, because we often don't notice them. We just shrug them off and go, oh yeah, whatever, that was weird, So I think that miracles have been leading me in my life in so many different ways. I used to actually search for them. I remember when I was dating and I so much wanted this guy to be the one. And I used to look for signs. I would look at license plates and I'd look at billboards and I would do all that stuff and I'd go, is he it? And I found I could make them up. I could take a license plate and twist it around in a few ways and say, okay, well, that's the sign. That's the miracle. But it wasn't. I find that the one common denominator, and I'm sure Sophia will talk about this, is that miracles are effortless. They just kind of land in your lap and you feel goosebumps all over and you just know something is important about this. They're not something that you can make up. And by the way, I never ended up with that guy. So anyway, I want to introduce Sophia. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, her background, how she got started on this journey. She's had several different careers that have all just led her to where she is now. So welcome, Sophia. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in all of this.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. Well, what happened was, I would say the beginning of this particular awareness was when I was 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I was going through this existential angst, probably like every 19-year-old. And there were 2 issues that were just, they were pummeling me. I just couldn't find a solution. Okay, so one was my mother's idea concept of being a virgin until marriage wasn't kind of working anymore. And the other one was, every so often I would meet up with somebody that didn't like me and who didn't really know me, but they would just not like me. And I just couldn't understand why. Here I was a nice person, relatively nice, and this person wouldn't like me, and I just felt saddled, So I was, in this particular time, I had met a man. So this miracle, okay, and we'll get into definitions later, but basically what I consider a miracle is something that is transformational, okay, that transforms you. So so this miracle had to do with this man and a dream, okay, and I had met this man, and he was getting his PhD in universal theory or something, and I was a party girl, but I was so attracted to him. He was 27. He had already been divorced. I was just absolutely, like, I would just go paralyze on myself, just paralyzed. So I was going through that, and then also, I guess there was somebody there that didn't like me or something. So I was in this thing, and I had this dream, and I'm just gonna, because you can read it in the book, but basically, I was on stage in a bridal gown with no groom, but I was in a plexiglass box, and the end of the dream, it was a very bizarre dream. And at the end of the dream, where I thought people were going through the reception line, I look down, and I'm wearing the same wedding dress, but I'm in a coffin.
Oh, wow.
So these people are, I guess, going by paying their respects. And it was the reaction of these people. Like, some would just walk, in front of me and not look at me. Only 2 people actually smiled at me, and that was a family friend and my best friend. And I woke up, and the bed was just sweat. My silhouette was sweat. And I had a roommate at the time, and I thought, I'm going to go to this guy's house and find out about, because I was completely freaked out. Like, this was an omen, foretelling my soon to be death, like. And so I was freaking out. And so this was 1:30 in the morning, and I went over, and of course, his lights are on, and I go over there, and I told him about this story, this dream. And he said to me, it has nothing to do with physical death. He said, what is dying is what is not working for you anymore.
Wow.
So, it's actually foretelling a new you. And
Very
then,
wise.
I'm sorry?
Very wise.
I knew where to go. Like, my intuition, which plays a big, big role here, just knew that this is the person to go to. Then he gets up, and he brings these poems that he had written about me that completely threw me off for a loop. It was like, how can this man know my heart? And nothing happened that night. But boy, a week later, we had a little awakening in more ways than one. Anyway, so within 4 months, okay, because I could only talk about and philosophize about the universe for only so long, so, this wasn't going to work for me. And then it was just gone. He was gone, and I was on my way, and I was a completely different person. Since that time, I have never cared for a second what somebody else thinks of me. It's just not my problem. I became someone else. I grew up, I went into this kind of womanhood, and it wasn't lost on me. I thought, wow, somebody's looking out for me. And that was the beginning.
Wow. And so I assume you did not end up with this guy.
Oh no. Oh
Okay.
no.
Just have to
it
know
was
the
it
end.
was it was a 4-month thing from beginning to end. And then I'm a completely changed person. I mean, complete change of perception. How does that work?
Wow. Wow. That's fascinating. That's great. Yeah. So give us a little bit more about your background. I read in your bio that you've had several different careers and a pretty amazing career that I love for you to talk about Buckminster Fuller. He's one of my heroes.
Oh, well, okay. So again, you kind of go along with what your parents tell you. And my mother, because I was very artistic as a child, my parents felt that, well, if you're a woman and you're artistic, well, the only thing you can do is teach.
Mm.
So I went along with it, and then my senior year in college, okay, I had 6 more hours of schoolwork and then my student teaching. So I have another little dream, okay? And this time it's just very short, just a quickie. And the doorbell rings and I answer the door and it's this, the mailman, and he hands me an envelope and I open it up and it's my teaching license. And I look at it and I go, I don't want to teach. So I threw the thing away in this little plastic bin, and I went to the registrar's office and I decided I was going to be an archaeologist. So I went to the registrar's office and changed my major. And that didn't go over very well at home. However, I got a scholarship to study in Italy with this Etruscanologist. So that kind of allayed my father. That kind of like, made it okay. So one night, so I had in this particular setup, there were seven roommates, and we would, stay up and philosophize and smoke French Gauloise cigarettes, and so one time it was just one of my roommates, Ward, and I were sitting up talking, and he says to me, he goes, "If you could be with anyone, dead or alive, past or present, who would you choose?" I don't know who I said because it doesn't matter. So I said, "Well, who would it be for you?" And he goes, "Buckminster Fuller." Mm-hmm. And I went, well, I knew that he had invented the geodesic dome, but of all humanity, I said, why him of all humanity? And he gets up and he brings me this thin little book called No Secondhand God. And it's a 39-page poem that he wrote. And I read this thing and I'm blown away. I mean, who is this guy? I mean, this is, and I find out that he's this kind of like modern day Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah. And I couldn't read about him enough. So I'm back now at the University of Oregon. And my friend, Mark, who was he was president of the student union, comes over and goes, "Well, guess who's coming to lecture Tuesday?" I said, "Buckminster Fuller," because he knew how beholden I was. And he says, "Would you like to go to drive with me to Portland and pick him and his wife up at the airport?" Oh, no. and people had been offering him $100 to do that. I'm like, I just couldn't believe it. So we go pick him up. It's a 2-hour ride, but it was snowing, so we had 4 hours. And it was just magic. I mean, this couple and I just clicked. And he asked me to be with him and his wife and keep his wife company during his lectures. And we started a correspondence. And when I was about to graduate from architecture school, okay, well, I missed that. I missed that part. So I was completely inspired to become an architect. Mm. And so upon graduating, my idol, Buckminster Fuller, asked me to work with him. Oh. So that's how I came to Philadelphia. Wow. it was just, I never took one moment for granted. And if people
Wow.
don't know about him, they should look up Buckminster Fuller.
Definitely. Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing that, whether it's wishing, asking, manifestation, I don't know what brought this upon me, but a series of coincidences would happen that would kind of bring me to the next step. For example, when I was in architecture school, all I wanted to do was design a beautiful building. That was my goal. But with my experience with Buckminster Fuller, he was not interested in beauty. He was interested in function and saving the world. And so the whole thing changed, that I wanted to solve problems and help, humanity in that way. And so it started out from there to, going through my 3 careers through these series of coincidences that I'm so thankful for.
Yeah. So you look back on that and you realize the step by step. I think that's what I always realize from these so-called coincidences. I'm doing air quotes because I just personally feel that everything is designed by our higher consciousness. We know, it knows where to take us and how to have certain people drop in our laps and have dreams, and all of that stuff is just designed that way. So
okay. So you're onto something here. Okay, so here's my belief. My belief is that I call it divine intelligence, universal consciousness, God. I use God a lot, but I'm careful when I'm speaking to somebody. I try to find out where they are in their spiritual journey, because I had an experience that told me that, to meet people where they are. Okay, so I believe that this divine intelligence knows exactly what is best for us better than we do. Okay, we think we know, and unfortunately we were given free will. Okay, so we are going to do whatever we want. But I believe that this divine intelligence communicates with us through coincidence and our intuition. So the more we hone our intuition, the more we are impelled, and this is the key, to take action.
Yes.
If you take action on a coincidence, you might get a miracle, which is exactly what you need at the right time. If you let it go, then it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
So that is how I have led my life. And people kept saying, well, these things only happen to you. And it would be kind of annoying to me, because I mean, I'm not special. Okay, I'm not like a guru or a saint for sure. And then it was 11 years ago where I was reconnecting with a childhood friend, and I told her my latest miracle. And she goes, "Oh, Sophia, these things only happen to you." And something clicked, because 5 years prior, I accidentally found myself in front of this medium. Okay, you know how that goes. And she's this world-class medium, and she told me I was going to write a book. And I went, there's no way. I said, that's not in the cards, okay? And I told her why. I have nothing to say. And B, I'm a people person. There's no way I am sequestering myself and writing a book. I can tell you that. And I thought to myself, just because she's world famous doesn't mean she's always right, right? So she just listened to me, and then she said verbatim, she goes, Spirit says when she's ready, there are many spirits here to help her and many hands on earth. And that's how it went down. So I'm reconnecting with my friend. She says what people have been saying to me all my life, and something clicked. And I realized the key of taking action. And that is when I decided to share it with the world.
Yeah.
Oh, and you said something. You said something that I need to accent. Okay, you said something about, like you'd be crazy about this guy, and then it wouldn't materialize. I write about that in my book. Like, I mean, over and over again, I would be like, oh, this is the one. And then obstacles, these horrible obstacles would land in my feet. And I'm like, God, why are you doing this to me? And I'm telling you, I have thanked God for those obstacles. I mean, some of these men went to jail, went crazy, or just plain died, And I'm just so thankful that so we also have to look at the other part of the universe, and that putting obstacles in front of us is just as important as the coincidences.
Yes. And sometimes those obstacles end up being challenges that help awaken us as well.
Absolutely.
I've had a ton of those challenges in my life, and I look back on them and I realize, wow, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have awakened to a part of myself that I needed to see, a part I was in denial of, or it took me in a complete different direction that I had no idea would happen. So yeah.
And you go along with it, and again, the more these things happen, then the more like you took action, and oh wow, this happened. So now you trust your intuition more. Then your intuition becomes your guide,
Yes.
So I worked as an architect for like 10 years, and then my last stint was designing biotechnology laboratories. I mean, it was interesting, but it was so far from beauty that I decided I needed a little change here. So I went into fashion, and
wow.
And so I started a dress designing business, and again, I could sew really well, and I could design, and all of a sudden, instead of a site, designing a building for a site, it was the site became the body. Okay. And again, at first, all I wanted to do was design beautiful gowns for beautiful women. Well, that quickly got boring because you can put a sack on a beautiful woman and she's still beautiful, right? But so the problem figure became my work in progress. So I had 2 excellent assistants, and we produced 30 magnificent gowns, maternity gowns that we would rent out to pregnant women. Well, this put me on the map, and the AP got hold of it, and people wanted to rent gowns from Texas, and I'm like, that's not the business model here, Anyway, so then I ended up designing a line for large women, and then Saks Fifth Avenue wanted my dresses, and then the intuition said, and I found out, some reasons not to go this route. And then I thought, some of my large clients were just so self-assured and just stole the show. And then there's these beautiful women with perfect bodies that were completely like, I figured out what it was. It was no self-esteem. They had very little self-esteem. And I thought, there has to be something more than putting a dress on somebody and making them feel good. There must be another way. And when it came down to self-esteem, I thought I was onto something. So I went back to school and graduated with my master's in counseling psychology when I was 50. Wow. And what I did is I designed a 12 workshop program called Living a Fearless Life that was piloted in the Philadelphia prison system to elevate self-esteem in incarcerated women. Because I figured, that is a captive audience.
Yeah, literally.
So, well, I mean, the administrators were just stunned. I mean, they were reporting that these women's behavior was changing, and it was so fulfilling to me. But the board, the commissioner loved the program and put me in front of the board, 32 men and 2 women. And all the two women, all of the men were rolling their eyes around, and then they didn't give me the money for it, except for two women and two gay men loved the program. Okay, so then I just got a grant from the PA Department of Community and Economic Development, and I did this program for ex-trafficked women, ex-homeless women, women in recovery, women who are in alternative to incarceration. And it just was one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. And I still run into these women, and they come in and introduce me to their children. And, you said something back then that I will never forget, or that book that we read. And so I look from the beginning of just wanting to design this beautiful building to this journey of really being truly helpful to people. And I just couldn't be happier.
Wow, that's so wonderful. Well, we need to take a little bit of a break. And just to let everybody know, we're talking to Sophia Demas today, and she's talking about coincidences, miracles, and she's had quite a few. And we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities. Transform your life from triggered to empowered with the Perfect Life Awakening program. Royce Morales' extraordinary, enlightening, spiritually based teachings that get to the core of subconscious underlying motivations driving your life. With more than 4 decades as a transformational facilitator and author, Royce Morales offers ways to awaken your deserving, authentic existence, free from paralyzing issues, repetitive patterns, and programmed fears, while simultaneously awakening your spiritually aware higher consciousness, purposeful self. Perfect Life Awakening offers remote group classes and one-on-one sessions to explore even deeper levels. Check out Royce Morales' books, Want, True Love, Past Lives, and Other Complications. No, A Spiritual Wake-Up Call. And Back, Rebirth After Stroke. Learn more about Perfect Life Awakening and Royce Morales. Visit roycemorales.com.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. I am talking to Sophia Demas, and she's talking about miracles, coincidences. All her stories are amazing. I have some questions. I've got a lot of questions. And, to me, everything, like I was saying before, everything is on some level chosen. We need to go a particular way, so something drops in our lap to take us there. We need to talk to a particular person so they show up. Buckminster Fuller arrives in your life. That's just amazing. So how do you, I feel like everything is energetically connected. So how would you, in that sense, then really nothing is coincidental. So how do you explain that, or give us some thoughts about that?
Well, maybe I should give you some examples.
Sure. Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
so okay, so something happens, and you take notice. What I write in the book, by the way, the title of the book is The Divine Language of Coincidence. Um, so I have identified 3 levels on a spiritual journey. Okay, so level 1, I consider it to be from a perspective of wishful thinking. Okay, so I think this is where a lot of people are. They just wish. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. And just maybe it'll, appear. And then a little coincidence appears, and they go, oh, wow, what a coincidence, and continue to wish and wish and wish. And another coincidence, wish, and they may never get what they wish for. So then you get awareness, you get a sense of awareness. And the second phase, I call it the perspective of hope. So now you know that this coincidence, if you take some action on it, you may get a miracle. So you take action and you sit back and hope. Okay? So the third is complete and utter faith. It's like, it is a wonderful place to be because you don't worry about anything. If something bad happens, well, then I'm going to learn a lesson. So from this perspective of faith is the sort of the optimal perspective to live one's life. So so the difference for me for a coincidence and a miracle, coincidence is how the universe communicates with us, but we have to take action to make it into a miracle. And there's no big miracle or little miracle. So there's people out there that think, well, unless you're curing cancer, it's not a miracle. And I have to say that is one of there's a story about that. I've had spontaneous healing, but I don't consider it any bigger than my, let's say, more understandable miracle. So 2, I'm gonna do this really quickly because there were 2, I think, amazing miracles that happened around my wedding. And I feel they're both extremely bizarre, and I would love to hear from your viewers which one they think is stranger.
Okay.
So Frank and I, also before that, our will, back to our free will. So I had no desire to get married. I had no desire to have children because I wanted to focus on my careers. And again, as I've said, I did not want to write a book. But this divine intelligence knows better. So I was successful anti-marriage until I was 45. And that's when I married Frank. And so we decided to get married on 4th of July, and the wedding was October 4th. So that's 3 months. And all the venues were taken. And I thought, oh, well, I don't care. My friend's a wedding planner, and we can turn a warehouse into something. But we were looking at venues. And we have 3 months. Let's put this together. I dial my friend Anne, and a man answers who is not her husband. And I said, hello? I said, is Anne there? And this man says, Sophia, is that you? It's me, Jerry, you called me. And I went, what? And I recognized his accent. It's somebody that I know socially, just socially. But this guy recognized my voice just based on that. And he says, look, I just got out of the shower and I'm dripping wet and I have to go to a meeting. Can I call you later? And I'm like, Jerry, promise me you're going to call me. I have to tell you something. You have to promise to call me. He goes, I will, I promise. So he calls me later, and I said, Jerry, I wasn't calling you. I was calling my friend. What is your number? So he gives me his number, and the last digit was off. And in all of Philadelphia, I call and I get on the phone somebody that I know. Okay, so we start talking, and coincidentally, this guy, for just a window of a few years, owned the Barclay Hotel on Rittenhouse Square. So I was telling him about our trying to find a venue for the wedding, and he says, "Oh, forget it." He goes, "You can have the ballroom, but you have to invite me and my girlfriend." I said, "Are you kidding?" And he threw in the presidential suite for 2 nights, which John F. Kennedy and Jackie stayed in. It was absolutely stunning. So here again, it's a coincidence. And I could have very easily said, Jerry, you don't have to call me. I wasn't calling you. It was the wrong number. Bye. Okay. Okay. So that's miracle number 1. So miracle number 2 is, okay, now I have my dress designing business, and I have my studio, and I get a message on my home phone, and it says, "Hi, this is Lisa. I just found your driver's license in Rittenhouse Square." And I go, because I don't like to carry bags in the winter. I just cram my pockets full of stuff. So I go, and lo and behold, my driver's license is gone. So I call her up, and she had to do some work to get me because I still had an Oregon driver's license. So turns out she lives 2 blocks away. I mean, and of course, Rittenhouse Square is very close to both of us, so that's not that big of a deal. So I said, "Oh, well, thank you so much." I said, "Just, put it in an envelope and drop it off in my mail slot." Okay. So 2 months later, I pick up the phone, and this woman, the same woman, says to me, "Hi, is this Sophia?" And I go, "Yes." And she says, "This is Lisa, the woman who found your driver's license." I said, "Yeah, hi." She said, "I know this is going to sound strange to you, but I just found your ATM card."
Oh my God.
I mean, I was floored. And she explained that, because I would go to a certain ATM where it would shoot it out immediately. So they would do the transaction, shoot out your card, and then you would put it away. Well, this one, you did your transaction, then it says, "Would you like to do another transaction?" Well, the next person could have wiped out my bank account, but it was her.
Oh my God. Wow.
And she says, "When I saw your name," she goes, "I just couldn't believe it." I said, "I don't go around losing things like this." And she says, "Should I put it in your mail slot?" I said, "No, you've got to come to my studio, and we've got to meet."
Yeah.
So she comes over to the studio. She's this beautiful, young, pixie blonde, blue-eyed girl. Turns out she is a violin virtuoso.
Huh.
So we start talking, and I was telling her about, oh, no, actually, that was it. I gave her, because she had, in her note with the driver's license, she had said how she loved Oregon, where I'm from. And I had this beautiful soap made in Oregon to give her, to thank her. And so that was it. Off she goes. Now we're in wedding mode. Okay, we're in wedding mode. We're trying to figure out the music. So I felt, okay, again, this is just last minute. I'll just have my friend play the organ. Although I didn't want the organ, but she's going to play the organ. So I come out of my apartment, and there's Lisa Marie jogging. And she stopped, and she said, "Oh, I've thought about you." And I went, "I've thought about you too. Well, let's have coffee." Okay, let's have coffee. So we have coffee, and I told her about the ballroom, and the coincidence? And I said, and I said, we were talking about her violin playing, and I said, do you know Concierto de Aranjuez, which is my absolute favorite concierto? She goes, it's one of my favorites. And she says, I would love to play it at your wedding.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And that will be your wedding present. But I'm going to get Alan, who plays the classical guitar, which is what this was designed for, who played at Le Bec Fen, which is it's no longer, the only 4-star restaurant in Philadelphia. So here I'm walking down the aisle to my favorite concierto. I mean, again, how easy it would have been to say, this is nuts, but yeah, just put it through the mail slot. No, we have to meet. So there you go. So I get these 2 amazing things at my wedding. So people could, vote on which one is weirder.
I vote for number 2.
You can? Okay.
That's an amazing story. That's really phenomenal.
So that's how it goes down, and I would say one of the, let's say, biggest miracles, but remember, there's no big or small miracles, but I would say another amazing story is that I'm not going to tell the story because people should, read about it in the book. But I realized after meeting Frank, this wonderful, soft-spoken man had anger issues. I mean, he was a major rager. And I dealt with this for 12 years. And then I had enough. So I just went, see ya, bye-bye. And I thought, I never want to see this jerk again. And I moved out. And Royce, I still, thank God, I spent all day thanking God, all day. Within 2 months, 3 amazing things happened that I took action on that brought us together. But I can't tell all the stories. It was unbelievable. And the last one took place in Hawaii. And that was 2009. And he hasn't had one anger episode since. I am married to my dream companion.
Wow.
Okay. And then the other thing that happened was, again, I didn't want to have children, didn't want to get married, didn't want to write a book. And the same year when I started writing the book in 2011, through one of my mentors, I met this beautiful homeless teenager from Turkey that Frank and I adopted.
Wow.
And now I have a kid. And now she's married in Greece with her architect husband, working on her 3rd master's.
Wow.
And so again, it was something new, better than me. And that's, if I could give a takeaway, it would be, have a mind just slightly ajar. Go ahead and do what you want, but keep an open mind.
Yeah. Oh, I've got chills. It's coming into my head as I'm listening to you talking about the people that you connected with and the situations that happened. How do you feel about soul agreements? Do you feel as though on an energetic or spiritual level, we've all agreed to these things and we're just kind of, they show up and they manifest and it seems like a coincidence, but it's all agreed to. How do you feel about that?
I'm on board 100%.
Yeah.
And I've had some experiences now in my second book. There were so many of these miracles and coincidences to cram into one book that I plucked out all the ones that had to do with death. And my second book, which is due in April, is Consciousness Beyond Death. true stories of signs, messages, and timing. And I write about a story like that where I knew that this person and I had dealings in a past life. The souls were connected.
Yeah.
I feel the same with my daughter. So, and who knows, maybe everybody. But yes, I do feel that.
Yeah. And how does that fit in with karma? And the way I define karma is just an effect from a prior cause. Is there a connection that you find that, karmically speaking?
I don't see a difference between a past life and a present life.
Mm-hmm.
I think if see, I don't want to come back. Okay. And that kind of has helped guide me, because I figured that I would say my true purpose, aside from being happy, is to be truly helpful. So I feel that if I really do that without any expectation, that God is listening to me, and I really don't want to come back.
Yeah, I have to tell you, universally, every student I've ever had has said that to me. And I think,
Really?
I think in one of my last shows, I said, there's a funny expression that I read about that says, if you're convinced that you don't want to come back, or you're not going to come back, don't burn your luggage. Because you have to reach the point where you're truly okay here and you're sort of neutral about the whole human experience, and then you've kind of completed all the lessons, and then you're more at choice in terms of reincarnating or not. So
And from
don't
what I understand, you go up there and then you're so enlightened that you go, well, I'll be that kid that got killed in the automobile wreck, So
yeah.
I feel like, yes, you can change your mind. I don't know. I am so sublimely happy and accepting of everything in my life. Like, I just don't see it getting better. I feel like I've learned lessons, and I've sort of learned and then taught, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I do think that there's heaven on earth, that you are responsible. So if you go around, like being greedy, it's all for you. Karma is not going to be smiling on you. And again, to me, karma, it all merges together. The karma and divine intelligence is murky. To me, it's what's the difference,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So one more question. I know we're getting a little bit low on time, but one more question that comes to mind is, what about the power of intention? Everybody talks about that. Metaphysical circles, it's all about intention. And I agree with that. I know that the universe shows us our true intention. The universe, I always refer to the universe as a yes machine. So anything you're putting out there in some way, consciously or unconsciously, gets reflected back as a yes. So if my thoughts are saying, oh, I don't deserve this wonderful relationship, well, guess what? The universe says, yeah, okay, well, you don't deserve it. So, we'll take it away, or we will not have that person manifest for you, or whatever. So how do you feel about the power of intention and coincidences?
Well, I believe in intention, that one can manifest, their desire. And that was asked in another show that I was on, that maybe these miracles are not really from a divine. This person said, I'm with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and say, well, what if these things were just all manifested? And again, the universe knows better than us. So what if your intention is not good for you? let's say, for example, that I want a red Maserati. Okay, that's my intention, to get this red Maserati, and I want this. And the obstacles start coming in front of me, and I push them away. The loan isn't coming through. They can't find it in red. I don't know, whatever, But by golly, I have free will, and I'm getting this red Maserati. So I get it. I get the red Maserati. And I go pick it up from the car dealership, and I bash into a tree and die. Well, maybe I should have listened to a couple of those obstacles.
Yeah.
That is my answer to that, is that yes, you can. And there's a great story, example of this that happened on my honeymoon, but I'm not going to go into it. So it's nice. It's this, and it's wonderful to know, again, from a position of faith, that this divine intelligence, God, whatever you want to call it, has your back. Yeah. And I think that's important to just know.
Yeah, yeah. I have a real quick story about something very comparable to the red Maserati. When my husband had a stroke 8 years ago, we decided that we wanted to move. And so I searched the world to find us a place to move to, everywhere. We live in Southern California, and the rent is crazy. And I would go to these places, and, I would be the 20th person in line, or I would turn in the papers and they would just be like, no, for no reason. It was just ridiculous. And I went out to dinner with a friend of mine, and I was telling her all this, and she said, well, have you thought about moving to the mountains? And I said, well, that's been my lifelong dream. I've always wanted to live in the mountains, but oh no, it's just way too expensive. It's crazy expensive in the mountains. And she goes, let me check on that for you. So she does a few little Google searches and finds that the mountains are about half the price as living in the city. And within probably less than 2 weeks, we found the most perfect place that we're now living in. And it just, I didn't even remember that I had said that this has been my dream my entire life. And the universe just provided. It became, this is what you want. This is what you deserve. It's a miracle. Here it is,
It's a perfect example.
Yeah. I didn't even have to look at the house that we found. I just knew it was the right one,
And you listened to your friend. You listened to your friend.
Yeah.
And it was okay. It was okay. You didn't say, you listened to her, and she's part of the energy.
She's definitely part of the energy. Yes. So I know that you were saying that you have a special offer to give our viewers and listeners, and I'd love for you to share about that offer so people can jump on and qualify for that.
Okay, so I have a website, sophiademas.com, and that's SOPHIADEMAS.com. And if you subscribe to the website, you will be notified when the next book is out, and also you will get the introduction for free. So what I would like to offer one of your viewers is a free signed copy of my book. Okay, so it's The Divine Language of Coincidence: How Miracles Transformed My Life After I Began Paying Attention. So the first person to go on my website and subscribe, I will get their email address, contact them, and send them the book. So again, it's sophiademas.com, SOPHIADEMAS. And so we'll give it a few minutes, or a couple of minutes, I don't know what we have left, and then I'll just see if anyone responded to get their free book.
That's awesome. I love that. That's great. And gosh, best of luck on your second book. I'm excited to see that when it comes out. And you said it's going to be in April?
Yes.
And what is the title of the book again?
The full title is Consciousness Beyond Death: True Stories of Signs, Messages, and Timing. And it's 10 chapters. 7 are my experience, my personal experiences with communicating with dead friends and family. And 3 chapters are close friends. And I tell you, I don't know which one of those 3 is stranger. It's just unbelievable that we can have these. So I'm just going to check. I'm just going to check my, to see if anyone has responded.
And as you're doing that, I just want to remind everyone that I'll be here the first Wednesday in January, and I'll be talking with another fascinating guest. And I really appreciate everybody listening. I hope everybody has a great holiday. And did anybody respond yet, Sophia?
No.
Okay, well, but we are done.
But we could do this after the show too. Whoever happens to respond, I will give them a copy of the book.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And you have a great holiday, and everybody out there have just a wonderful new year and December. And I will see you guys in January. Thanks so much.
Yes, happy holidays.
Thank you.